Gratan Puxon is a British Roma. You are the organizer of the first World Roma Congress. You are journalist and writer. Your book Swastika is talking about Primus. Let's start from this tragedy.
Yes, the first World Roma Congress 1971 was the first time that we could get together when Europe was already divided by the Cold War. So it is still very significant and symbolic. But we hadn't really got the technology then that we have today to unite together in something like a virtual Romanistan. And that's why at the moment we were working on linking people up and having democratic elections and increasing our political power that way. Meanwhile, on the ground, I'm only too aware of the sickening anti-gypsy racism, the evictions that are now pending in Italy. And I'm very admiring of the activists there who are trying to stop it in every way they can. But we know it goes on. It goes on in France. France has deported 20,000 Roma. We're certain this is illegal. And it's happening right here in the UK. So we were down having London Roma Nation Day today, organised by Roma London and Thomas Nikolaev, and we just delivered a letter to Mr. David Cameron asking that Roma should be represented in all discussions and consultations concerning our future and the degree we want to reach at some time a full emancipation and some kind of self-determination.
In which European countries do you see the worst situations now for Roma?
That's very hard to say because everything is kind of a bad of each other. We had a huge eviction here at Dale Farm, which became an international issue, when £10 million, that's, I don't know, 15 million euro of public money was used to destroy 85 homes on ground that belonged to the people themselves. It was our own land, but it was destroyed at that huge expense. But these things are going on all over Europe, as far over, if you like, in Russia to Rome, if you like, from Budapest to Bucharest, everywhere. Since the last 20 years, I suppose, that the racism has got steadily worse. And we are in a very great crisis now because of that. That's why we're very keen to unite ourselves and have more political power, hopefully, as a collective. And the 10th World Roma Congress has just taken place in Skopje, Macedonia. And out of that is coming what we call a democratic transition, where we're going to have votes, more democracy, more transparency, more accountability to our own leadership, but at the same time empowering our Congress to reach possibly a political parity with the European institutions, which hasn't happened so far.
About Eastern Europe, what happened after 1989? Is the situation now better or worse?
There was amongst the Roma organizations some euphoria at the fall of socialism in Eastern Europe because we believed this would bring more democracy and we could organize more freely. But after a few years, it's quite evident that what's happened is the economies of Macedonia, Bulgaria, many other countries has dropped dramatically, and Roma, who are already at the bottom of the society as far as jobs were concerned and accommodation, the situation has really become worse. The Roma in Yugoslavia were very much key in the Romani movement and are so today, but they begin to look back on the Tito era as having been that we had more respect and more possibility to progress.
About Italy, there was a very important investigation in Rome, in the capital, about the misuse of funds, also funds connected to Roma, were supposed to improve the condition of Roma people, but they were misused.
Let's hope that we can get to the bottom of that and get proper control, proper transparency and auditing of such funds. This has been going on for some years, that the EU funding is going through local governments and much of it gets wasted on administration and only really a trickle has ever reached Roma who most need it. That is a big problem for us.
And still in Italy there is a political leader, Matteo Salvini, who call bulldozers to evict Roma camps, Roma settlements. What do you think?
Well, we had the same thing here in the UK when it was, the headlines were "Stamp on the camps," and that's exactly what they did. And it's terrible to see this happening in other parts of Europe. And I am following what's going on in Italy, and I'm very. They should be ashamed of it. That's all I know. But there's a desperate situation because the right wing is getting stronger all the time. In Bulgaria, there's now a proposal at least, from one of the right-wing parties that the Roma should be sterilized in order to cut down the numbers or fight the demographic that would occur, a high birth rate.
Finally, how do you see the refugee crisis, which is not affecting directly Roma people, but I think you are feeling solidarity with people in Calais or however involved in this crisis?
People don't realize that in fact Roma are with the refugees. There are Roma coming out of Syria in hundreds if not thousands in exactly the same position and trying to get a better life in Europe. And of course we're very much in solidarity with all migrants, since it's not long since Roma were being pushed about in the same way, trying to cross Europe, trying to find a better life. Of course we are for the migrants and calling for humane solutions.
It's good also to remind what Porajmos was.
Yes, we remember Porajmos on the 2nd of August because of the destruction of the Zigeuner lager. But there has been worse camps than Auschwitz for the Roma. For instance, in Jasenovac, in fascist Croatia during the wartime, the killing there was horrific, bestial, and on a larger scale than in Auschwitz. We remember, we are shocked, we're still crying over it, but it is also a uniting factor for us. We do remember and we do unite together to go forward, and it must not happen again. The thing is, I did quite a study on the genocide, and what you have to realize is that genocide started long before. It was not an isolated thing. And now we're facing a kind of a slow genocide through illegal deportations, through sterilization, through refusal to have the Romani language in school and so on. It's a slow genocide, and we're here to march against it today in this demonstration.